Bobby J Rockaway. We already know.
What
Nef
up?
in the building
Yo,
here
what
for
up?
Sports Hip
What
Hop with
up?
DJ Mad Max. Radio Days available on all platforms. Live 365, iHeartRadio, Sports Hip Hop with DJ Mad Max. How's it going, guys? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you reaching out, Bobby J, as always, and getting us connected and staying in touch and sending me the records early.
Yeah, man, everything's great, man. I mean, we're just I think we're still on a little bit of a high with the album, dropped January 20th, cracked the top 50 in iTunes, still
First
going
day.
strong.
Congratulations on that. I saw that.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
just dropped a new video on last Thursday for the 7182313 interlude with Hush. The first video we dropped is the From the Jump video. And we're just kind of sitting back and watching the reactions, you know what I'm saying? It's like seems like every week there's new people adding it to their playlists, and Statik's been supporting it heavy, and Rhetmatic, and just a lot of people that we look up to and idolize that have just really thrown their support behind it. So, it's something we've been sitting on for a long time. It's something we've been anxiously waiting to put out to the people. And now that it's out, it feels good. It feels like a weight off your shoulders a little bit, but it's still grind mode. Like we're still pushing it, trying to get as much eyes and ears on it as we possibly can.
Absolutely, and you're doing that, and I appreciate the project as always. You always keep it real, especially the Hangover track.
Oh
I
yeah,
can
for
relate
sure.
to that, especially it's a real life record and what people go through
Yeah.
every day and trying to stay motivated. And just the reference with the blood going on the apron from Leatherface, I appreciated that as a horror fan, so that was crazy. So Neff, I want to turn my attention to you because this is the first
Yeah.
time you've been on my platform. Me and Bobby
Okay.
J have been here for years as far as him coming on my show. So this is my introduction to you.
Right,
What was
right.
the bar or the line that you heard from Bobby J that sold you right away, in which you guys connected and you knew that he was a really great MC?
Oh, like before this?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was like an aha moment or it was like a certain bar because we connected through Static. I was like working under Static, being mentored by him and everything. And then and just like working in the studio, and they started doing stuff together. And we met through that. Then we started working. I would get beats on his projects. And then later on, he was on my first project, Tabula Rasa. And really, it was just like a lot of growth. Like he was, in my eyes, he was dope already. But then I started seeing so much growth, and at the same time, I'm growing as a producer. Um, and a big thing that attracted me towards his music was like he's an MC that's able to give aggression and give like a umph in his presence, and give you kind of like that, I almost want to say like gangster feel, but without talking about the BS, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
um and he always kept it real, kept it really hip hop, but he didn't do it in a corny way. And I just, like I said, I saw that progression. And one day we both kind of thought it at the same time, and I brought it up and I was like, let's get it, let's do a project.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
you could see it. You guys click just like Gangstar, Hit Boy, and Nas. Do you plan on
appreciate that.
taking this even further, including what we already have here with you guys with Radio
Yeah,
Days? You guys are going even
yeah,
further
yeah,
now?
yeah, definitely. I mean, it we keep saying this, like it only makes sense. Like anytime that I had a beat on his project, it seemed like that was the one that would randomly be getting picked for radio play. Then like on my project, like that song had more streams than any other song. And it was really just a response from everybody, you know what I mean? And we're easy to work with. You know what I mean? I feel like we click not just personality wise, but we both trust each other in the studio.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I could see that, especially just the vibe, just from listening to the album that you guys work together. Like I said before, the comparison with Nas and Hit Boy, it it's right there in front of our eyes, the collaboration tip. So, Bobby J, walk me through the meaning behind Radio Days as far as the album title. What made you choose that name?
So that was a title that honestly I had just in the back of my mind that I knew I wanted to use for a while, for the simple fact that it was a movie that was shot in Rockaway Beach. It's like a classic Woody Allen movie, and it's specifically about like the classic days of radio in like the 1930s and the 1940s. And that's kind of like the backdrop to the movie. And I was just like, it's so dope. Like he shot that in Rockaway Beach, and it's about radio, and it kind of like would fit something. And the projects and the albums that I was working on before I did this, that title didn't really fit But when me and Nef got together and we started making music, that concept really resonated with me, and it just started to make sense, when the songs started coming together, because it really plays into our childhood. Like, we grew up probably the last real generation that still remembers when radio DJs were still like the curators of like what the next big thing was going to be, what the next big record was going to be. Or I remember tuning into Hot 97 at 2 o'clock, and your favorite artist, their new record would premiere on the radio, and then it would be on the internet afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would leak after the fact. Now it's kind of backwards. Radio kind of gets onto things late. Things make their way on social media or on the internet first, and then radio is the last thing to pick it up. So the inspiration behind this album was like really going back to that time of just being a kid that was excited about not just hip hop, but just new music in general. And every song on this album, I think, either has an Easter egg or makes a reference to either an artist that I was a super big fan of, a song or an album that I was a super big fan of, or just like a sound or a vibe that kind of, inspired me as a kid. So like, I definitely took myself back to, being 12, 13 years old, which, for me, that's the age when you really start to figure out, what your tastes are and what your sensibilities are, who your favorite artists are going to be. And those artists stick with you throughout the rest of your life. So, my sole intention going into this was kind of to make something that would not only impress a young me at that age, but also be something that the next generation of kids could listen to. And maybe they like this brand of hip hop that me and Nef are doing, and they may want to go back in time and, figure out, who BDP is, or who Nas is, or who, there's so many references on the album. Any card carrying hip hop fan that's older will know what I'm talking about. But the younger fans, they'll go back and they'll revisit stuff, and they'll see, oh, he was referencing, Everlast on this song, or he was referencing, KRS-One, you know what I'm saying? So all of that stuff was intentional.
When we look at it, because I know the last time we usually talk about the most recent hip hop news, but in my opinion, so far, you and Sky Zoo have the top two projects already coming out of the year here with 2023. Absolutely. Because, I always keep it real as far as what artists bring to me when it's actually the authenticity of hip hop. And you have done that to the fullest day one since I met you. And this brings me to my next question, because I know last time we talked about signing a deal, and if you were ever in any record contract talks, what keeps you motivated to just keep going despite being independent? And when it relates back to your song, The Hangover, just staying motivated, because I feel as though that you're an underdog in this game, because to me, you should be top 5, top 10 right now in the game when we look at it from a mainstream perspective. But the mainstream is always going to be politicized by numbers and with the popularity contest. But from an artistic standpoint, top 10, there's really no doubt about it. So what keeps you motivated when we relate to the song The Hangover?
Well, I know the one thing I've learned is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And, the only discernible difference between people that are successful versus people that aren't successful is a lot of times the people that are successful just have a stronger work ethic and they don't give up, and I think, with every album that I put out, and realistically, like, I've only really started going hard again with music since like 2018, 2019. So it's really only been like a 4-year stretch when I've like really been putting stuff out. And I look at where I'm at now versus where I was then. It's like,
we've seen the growth.
Yeah. It's like, it's not, I don't cloud my brain with a year from now, I need to be here. A year from now, I need to be here. I just need to know that I'm moving in the right direction. And, sometimes there's big wins and sometimes there's small wins, but everything counts. And it adds, fuel to the fire and keeps the momentum going, because it's like, oh shit, we dropped the album and Primo's posting about it.
Yeah, that's big. I saw that.
And I'm like, the fact that that guy even knows that I'm a human being that exists on planet Earth is like, that shit blows my fucking mind. You know what I'm saying? So it's little things like that, that, you know, sometimes it gets frustrated. I think we all get frustrated, and we've all hit roadblocks where we feel like, you know, either I'm running in place, or this isn't working, or I want to quit. But, you know, I'm just happy that I get to make music with the people I want to make it with, that I could put out an album or a song, and, you know, the next week I could hear it on the radio being played by a Statik Selektah or a Chuck D. You know what I'm saying? Like, this type of stuff blows my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, and as a fan, that's like the stuff that counts. I don't get super concerned with like what the numbers are, or what label's watching, or what I need to do to get a quote unquote record deal. Like, I that's not, and this is about the journey, and it's about doing what I want to do the way I want to do it. And I'm going to keep doing it like that until I can't do it anymore. And I feel like the way I've been doing it, and the way Nef's been doing it, is just staying consistent and putting the work, has proven to be a model that's working, at least for me. You know what I'm saying?
Nef, I want to turn to you as far as the production on this project. It's amazing. I'm always a boom bap guy. As a young dude, because I'm only 23, I'm always trying to appeal to my younger audience and say that this is the hip hop authentic sound. What do you think is the best way nowadays to bring in that youthful audience? Because everyone always says in my age gap, oh, boom bap is old, it's out of date, that's the old, it's all trap now. So what's the best way, because you're doing it on this project, what's the best way that we can really bring in the youth audience to accept boom bap?
Well, there's a couple things to this. You know, like for me personally, like I'll start here, is that, you know, I can make any type of hip hop, any type of beat, and I even went through a period where I was like, all right, you know, before the UK drill came in, I was like, all right, let me do Chief Keef, like, you know, Chicago drill. Let me try this today. Let me try that, and I did that. And then I was like, all right, let me naturally just do what I do. Because before that, I was like just doing boom bap. I learned those aspects. And then I just started doing what happened naturally. The big thing, like what we're talking about now, is like with Bobby, is like I feel like I'm able to kind of like bridge that gap with him the easiest, because you know, we're able to kind of go across different genres, you know, with the fadeaway joint, and even like something like and he's willing to do it, you know, he's down to do that kind of stuff, and he knows I am too. The big thing for me, and like Static just like drilled it in my head, was to, you know, I say boom bap, I say underground all the time, but there's the young kids that say, oh, it's 90s style, and to correct them and just say, hey, it's not 90s, because 90s already happened. This is traditional hip hop. And just kind of like show them, yo, what records that are dope right now consist of traditional hip hop? What records are still sampling? Hey, let's go look at the charts right now, because people are still putting that stuff out. You might have to look for it, but sometimes you really don't. And you just want to say, oh, yeah, trap is dominated. But in the end of the day, it's really not always. It's just dominating in the short term kind of stuff. And you know, I work in a couple studios, and when I have these young artists, sometimes I break it down to them. It's like, yo, if you're a brand new artist, or you're not even popping yet at all, and you want to chase like a UK drill, or you want to chase what's hot right now, by the time you might get any audience at all, that's already gone.
Right.
So you just got to be you, and you got to define yourself. And like what Bobby said, and what I'll always say, is like, be consistent.
Yeah.
You know, you got to run it like it's
I don't
a
even
job.
think, you know, it wouldn't even be natural for us to even try to do something like that. Like,
Yeah.
we just do what we like, and we do what's natural to us. And I think to answer your question, to bring the younger generation into it, you just got to make good records that connect, man. Like, you just need to find, you know, there's so many people that make traditional or boom bap hip hop, whatever you want to call it, that have thrown the idea of song structure out of the window. It's like
Mm.
radio's never going to play us. They don't respect our form of music, so we're just going to go straight underground with it, which is dope, and I'm not mad at that. But the way I look at it, it's like, for me growing up, New York invented the commercial rap song. You know what I'm saying? Like, that comes from us. Even the heavy 808s, you know, you could trace back to Rick Rubin and Larry Smith and guys like that. You know, you listen to early Def Jam, early Run DMC shit, they were doing heavy 808s too back then. So you could even say that's a part of, you know, the East Coast identity. But you just have to make it translate, man. Like, I think with me and Nef, you know, bars are extremely important, but beat selection is important. The subject matter you're talking about is important. Having concepts, being able to write hooks, being able to understand melody. Like, we're trying to make songs, man. Like, we're trying to make music. It's not just somebody. I want to make something that somebody can listen to and say, oh shit, he's rapping dope on the song, but also have something that has replay value, have something that somebody wants to go back and revisit, you know, more than once. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you just hear a song and you're like, oh shit, the dude rapping on this is super nice, but it doesn't connect on any real like emotional level, or doesn't stay with you. You kind of hear it once and it's in one ear out the other. You know, we want to make music that has staying power. And I think, you know, you could do that with any sound, any rhythm, whatever you want to do. We just choose to make the type of music that resonates with us.
Mhm.
Bobby J, I know you have all these amazing stories from when you were younger. You have the freestyle with J. Cole that we see the video clip from back in the day. You told me about your friendship with Boz back in the day and you knowing him. Because you're from Rockaway, I've been listening to a lot of Chinx lately. Do you have a Chinx story at all? Do you remember seeing him around anywhere?
No, I never met Chinx. I never met Stack. I mean, we're pretty much from two completely separate areas. I mean, same peninsula, same neighborhood, but very different. Never got to meet them. But you know, I could definitely say as a kid, being in high school, the Smack DVD era was like reign supreme. Cocaine City, the Come Up, like that was YouTube for us. You know what I mean? That's where you discovered all the new artists and you get to see all the freestyles and all the battles and shit like that. And I just remember having like a serious amount of pride seeing Stack Bundles, because like Stack Bundles kind of ruled. It was really like 3 or 4 rappers that would just be on every single Smack DVD. Like, he was one of like, you know, 2 or 3 guys that kind of ruled that era. You know what I mean? So for me, that was super dope to see, because prior to that, it was basically MC Serch, like before there was any other rappers that had any type of clout, any type of name at all. So like when he died, that was super fucked up. And I remember just thinking like, shit, man, like we cannot win as a neighborhood at all. Like, this guy was about to be like the next superstar and he gets killed. And then Chinx comes out and it's all pretty much on like the same trajectory. He gets killed. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think all that kind of plays into me, even though I'm from Rockaway Beach, putting Rockaway in my professional name is so important to me, because it's like, we really haven't had a lot of people come out that have really been able to, you know, let people know, like let hip hop fans know that, yo, there's a lot of talent that exists in this little isolated inlet that's Queens, but it's kind of isolated, and, you know, it's Queens, but it's not really, you know what I mean? We're our own little separate thing and separate entity. So, yeah, man, I was a huge fan of those guys. Never got the chance to meet them, and I'm sad I never did, but, they were definitely a big like just a huge motivating factor for me. You know what I mean? Like, to see somebody that was from out here making it, let me know that it was possible, you know?
It was, and unfortunately that they didn't get to see where their careers would have went, but you can see that they still have large followings to this day, and the impact in people like you can see that they inspired you. Absolutely. And I appreciate you for keeping Rockaway in your name. And speaking of MC Serch, I wanted to get through with this because I remember we talked about in the last interview, you were just wrapping up the music video shoot for the
Yeah.
first single by MC Serch in a long
Yeah.
time. I think like, was it over 20 years now?
He says 27 years. I think it's
Yeah.
his first solo single in 27 years.
Whew.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I mean, Serch was somebody whose attention I was always trying to get for obvious reasons. Not just because of third base and them paving the way for me, but Serch being from Far Rockaway, Serch also his career as an A&R and signing people post third base is
OC Nas.
arguably more, prolific than what he even did as a rapper. You know what I'm saying? So I think my manager, Greg, was just kind of beating up his inbox, like sending him everything that I was doing. And when COVID hit and I put out the project with Statik, I think that was kind of like what solidified it to him, the fact that I had a project with Statik. And I ended up doing his podcast. And then we stayed in touch after that. And just coincidentally, we both had a mutual friend named Chrome, who's a producer I've worked with a ton over the past 2 years. And he hit me and was like, yo, I got a record with Serch on it. It needs a hook and it needs a verse. You want to get on it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I put a hook and a verse on it. He sent it back to Serch. Serch ended up listening to what I did and saw, like, I was talking about what I'm talking about in my verse. His original verse was a little bit different. It wasn't really like talking about like growing up in Rockaway. So he went and redid his verse, and then we probably sat on it for maybe 4 or 5 months. Like it was just kind of in the stash for a while, and then he was very adamant about wanting to do a video, and flew me down to Orlando. Got to shoot some of the video down in Orlando on a soundstage, and then he came back up to Rockaway, and we shot scenes in Rockaway. We rented out the Rockaway Hotel, had a bunch of local artists come through, like Keen Streets and Fligga, and my boy Little D came through, my boy Truth came through, my boy Hush was there, Jonathan Mannion. We had Thurston Howe was at the video in Orlando, K Solo. So we had like a bunch of people just come through, man. And it was crazy because for me, I'm like, this is just a surreal moment. Like I'm doing a record with MC Serch, who's a legend in his own respect. We're shooting the video in my own backyard. His friends are there. My friends are there. I got to have all my Far Rock Shop guys there and, showcase their clothes in the video. So it was a really dope experience, man. So
Around here, you go check that out. Go check out the visual on YouTube. Hip hop history right there. I want to bring it to you, Nef, because I know we talked about it before as far as a production tip, because in my opinion, Bobby J is one of the last real to come out of that real generation of the J. Coles, the Kendrick, the Drakes, where you had to make it through the organic way, which was like the BET 106 and Parks. You had to go to Rap City before social media really took over. So now Bobby J is mainly getting his blow up through social media. So what's the way you think that Bobby J can really stand out from the crowd and for people to recognize him to be like, oh, he's from that J. Cole, Drake era, even though that you really don't have those organic platforms such as the 106 and Park anymore?
I mean, I think the thing is like he's really doing it. He stands out because he's not conforming to like even what he was talking about. There's and I'm not knocking it, but there is like a new era of underground hip hop that's like, yo, let's take it super underground. Let's take it, really gangster. Let's just go, no hooks, none of that. And what he's doing is he's just gonna keep it himself. He's gonna give you hard, aggressive bars, but he might be on a soulful beat, but we're gonna have a soul sample, but we're gonna have like hard drums with the bass, and then he's gonna come through with confidence, and and he's not gonna conform to over there, and he's not gonna conform to the mainstream. And the biggest thing, like what we said, was consistency. Right now, it's like we both have a decent amount of connections, and you know, I have full faith if we keep putting music out, if he keeps putting music out, a lot of people have been definitely noticing him a lot more. You know, in that time from him, for me, he like came out of nowhere and got and did a project with Static. Then we met, and then he did that. And then the big thing that I saw with his progression and just, you know, gaining notoriety was getting on other people's songs. And that's like for artists trying to do their thing, that's the perfect thing. It's, you know, you're sharpening your steel and you're also getting, you know, all right, I'm gonna get their following a little bit. I'm gonna get theirs. I'm gonna get theirs. Yeah, it's cross pollination, and that's what we're doing. Like I talk about it all the time. It's like, yo, we get to just like make friends with awesome people and put music out together and get money, and that's what we're doing. And it's like he's been doing those, and you know, it's working out, and it's just consistency at this point.
Bringing it back to the beginning, even just what I asked, I think Bobby J, out of all the freestyles that I did when I was at my time in college, the one when I posted with you freestyling over Black Star, I think that had the biggest traction of all time. I think it was because people, I don't think they couldn't believe it, you know, just how crazy you went on that beat.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess you know, it's always like you got to be prepared. Like, you know, I still remember the old school, not old school, but you know, I've been doing this a long time. So, you know, I remember, you know, going around with like Kwame and shit and, you know, him taking me up to like Power 99 in Philly and like having to get on live on air with Cosmic Kev, who's like, you know, the Funk Flex.
Flex of Philly, yeah.
Like the Funk Flex of Philly. And like, you know, there was just a lot of moments like that growing up where it was like, he'd be like, yo, I don't know, like, I can't promise you anything. I'm going to go into this room and they're here to interview me, but I'm going to try to get you to rhyme. And like, you better have some shit in the chamber. You know what I mean? So he conditioned me to be like that. You know what I mean? It's like, even, you know, I get like anxiety as an artist because it's like, yo, I haven't written, like, I've been writing these songs, but like, I need to like write like a 24 bar, just murderous like battle rhyme for like when the situation arises, and I need to have something to, you know, have some wow factor for people in the room, like whoever's going to be listening, because you never, like, really, you never know when that type of stuff is going to happen. And like 9 times out of 10, it's like the random situations where you kind of got to pounce on it, where, you know, you need to be ready. So, you know, I've just been conditioned to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, be professional, be, you know, sound like you deserve to be there. Like you belong in the room, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's safe to say that you unload a full clip every time the clip is unloaded.
Gotta, man, gotta. But I learned from the best, man. Like every rapper that I really idolize, or any rapper that, you know, I respect today, they do the same thing, man. You know, like you get a J. Cole in a room, like he's gonna show you, you know, in 3 minutes why he's on top. They're going to put a beat on. And again, it's another thing, like they're going to put a beat on. He doesn't know what beat it's going to be, and he has to rap over it. And that's another thing. It's like, yo, there's no saying switching the beat. There's no saying give me something else. It's like, you got to be ready to go, you know? So the best guys, the guys that I respect, they all do that. You know, this is something they take super serious. So.
When I had you on the show back with Hush, I think it was either September, August. I can't remember when it was, but it was last year, because we were talking about what you guys were doing. The game never got his response from Eminem. I think he's never going to get it again.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were talking about that.
Yeah, remember that? I don't think he's ever going to receive a response.
Why would
something else that was remarkable was KD 3 by Nas. What was your thoughts on that album, and that Nas is just dropping classics in his sleep now, in the bold age of, what is he, close to 50 now almost?
Right. I love see, this is the thing, like I love the Nas Hit Boy chemistry. I think that a lot of people, you know, the typical 90s Nas fan wants Nas to make Illmatic Part 3. You know what I'm saying? Where it's you know, Primo, Large Professor, LES, Q-Tip, you know, Pete Rock. And it's like, I understand that as a fan, but you got to evolve and you got to move forward. And I just feel like people are blind to the fact that Nas is making some of the best music of his career just with a guy that, you know, is a newer age producer. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes, like, if you're a true fan, you should be checking for his new albums, and it shouldn't fall on deaf ears to the people that, you know, just want to hear the Illmatic stuff. You know what I mean? And for me, like, personally, my favorite project isn't part of the King's Disease trilogy. Magic, to me, was the best out of all of them.
Speechless.
I really like that album. And I think it's great, man. Like, I think guys like Nas, we need them to keep putting out music, because the biggest ism in rap is, it's not racism, it's not sexism, it's ageism. And it's like, we need guys like Nas, we need guys like Eminem, we need guys like Black Thought, we need guys like Jay-Z to be, you know, 50 plus years old, showing that you should be getting better as you get older. You shouldn't be digressing. I think the stereotype was always that, you know, inevitably you're just going to fall off and forget how to rap for some reason. But I think these guys are showing that, no, actually, you can actually progress and get better and make better music as you get older. So yeah, man, I love those albums, and I hope they keep putting more shit out. I mean, I would love to see Nas relink with the Dream Team from Illmatic, just like everybody else. But like I said, I understand that, you know, you can't stay the same person for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, you got to try new things. And I think he's tried some things in the past that were new that didn't work. And now he's found a formula that does work, and he's kind of in his zone. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of albums that he's put out in this short span of time is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. Nef, I want to get into your story, because like you said, you were talking about being mentored by Statik, and you have some history, especially with the album that you just released that you mentioned. I did check out your work, and I love the song that you did with Razcast. He's a legend.
Yeah.
Top 5 West Coast all-time MC, in my
Facts.
opinion. It totally underrated. So to walk me through your story, man, because you have a special story as well, and not just here working with Bobby J, but you being mentored by Statik and the people that you've been able to work with.
My story is crazy. I'll try to keep it concise. But you know, so real quick, because I'm always transparent about this. You know, I'm a guy in recovery. I'm 14 years sober.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I say that just because it's something that's rare in hip hop. It's something that's not talked about that much in hip hop. And it's something surprising in hip hop. So hopefully someone needed to hear that. But yeah, so like I grew up in a super small town, the southernmost town of Maine. I bounced back and forth from Maine and New Hampshire. And I started doing music. You know, I would say early on, some people might be later, you know, late teens, early 20s. That's when I started doing, you know, DJing and making beats, took it a little more seriously. And you know, back home, I was like DJing every other night. And then I took it serious, like, yo, let's do this. I quit my job. And I was full time, and I started looking around at like the local DJs and this and that. And I was like, bro, I don't want that. I gotta move to New York. And I just got that bug in me, and I moved out here. I didn't know a soul out here really. And I just hit the ground running. I would literally go like to LES, go to Williamsburg, and knock on doors and like give them CD mixes and like demand to speak to a manager and go to every show I possibly could. And then, you know, I linked up with Statik, and he just, you know, real short, you know, like within a little bit of time, he took me under his wing, and I just started like, I would hit him up every day and just see what he was up to. And I went to his studio, and I would just watch him make beats. I started meeting his friends, his circle and everything, started going out. He showed me the city. He gave me the keys to the city, and it was crazy. It was like, yo, one night we might be in the studio, the next night we might be, you know, in the studio with 2 Chainz, or we might, you know, be at a Nas show backstage. And I was just like, my mind was being blown, but I was so inspired. And you know, kind of the rest is history. Like him and Term like taught me everything I know about like being in New York, being in the game, you know, doing everything with Static, and then opening up a studio with terminology. Um and you know, doing the engineer thing, the production thing, and then you know, being able to put out a project like Tabula Rasa was just, you know, it was super dope. You know, it's a project that's special to me, but it's also like a project with most of those people are all my friends now. I mean, I moved out to New York, and you know, I remember the inspiration to that album was being at a Q-Tip party. I think it was like me, Static, Dom Dirty, maybe Destroy, and Lil Fame was there, and me and him were
MOP.
just, yeah, MOP, and and we're just outside. We're like 40 stories high or some shit like that. The party was nuts. Um, and he just, you know, he like points on my chest and he's like, yo, what's up, what you working on, bro? And I was like, I'm working on this with this person, this with that person. He's like, I'm trying to get on something. And he's like, what are you working on? And I just said, I just started an album. And that was the start of the album, you know what I mean? And it's been, you know, this move has been one of the best things I've ever done, and it's really been taking me to some amazing places. So I mean, it's dope. It's really dope, man.
When we think about it, we look it back, there's always that one thing that introduces you into hip hop. I've said it before. Nelly's Country Grammar was my introduction to hip hop. And then I went back and did my research and learned about all the greats. What was
Yeah.
the first time that you heard a hip hop beat? It could be to a song that you think pulled you in, Nef.
Yo, to be honest, I think it was like the Napster days.
Mhm.
And it was a mixture. It was like my sister had like Lauren Hill, Dre, and Eminem, and I would hear that. And then my brother had Beastie Boys because he listened to like rock music, and that was like kind of more his speed. And then, because you know, where I grew up, there wasn't really a lot of hip hop, and I was like, "Yo, what is that?" And then when I was like 14, I started working in kitchens, and you know, I'm the youngest dude in there, and then everyone else is like in their 20s, and they're just playing they're playing hip hop shit every day. They're playing um Biggie, they were playing like all sorts of stuff. It'd be like Biggie and then like Deltron, and then it'd be like Cage, and then it'd be like the Roots. So it was like a huge culmination, and it was just like after that I was hooked.
We could see it, and this is how your journey really took off from there. And you know, Bobby J, because you mentioned the rock thing, and Bobby J, I feel as though would you ever dip into a corn or a limp biscuit type of thing, what they were doing as far as maybe switching up and doing a rock beat? Because you saw what they were doing back in the 90s. Would you ever consider that?
I don't know if I don't know if I would do it like that, but I mean, if I was to model it after anything, it'd probably be like more like Rage Against the Machine. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
yeah.
Because like Rage Against the Machine to
Bulls
me
on Parade,
was like what those guys were like trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like they were the original like
Voice of the
Tom
Voiceless,
Morello
all
and
that
Zach
stuff.
De La Rocha, like they were Public Enemy with guitars. You know what I'm saying? Like not saying it would necessarily be political, but just like Zach De La Rocha, like he could have stood on his own as a rapper.
He could have,
Saying
yeah.
like he didn't like and I'm not trying to knock any of those guys, but a lot of those guys, it was kind of like they wouldn't be able to hold their own as MCs, so they kind of had to dress it up in this other package. You know what I'm saying? Or I like how Beck did it. Like a lot of early Beck songs were produced by the Dust Brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like some of his best albums of the Dust Brothers. And Dust Brothers did, you know, Paul's Boutique, and like they did Young MC, and they did like Tone Loc and shit like that. They were like the West Coast. They were Dart Adams actually called them the White Bomb Squad. You know what I'm saying? So like there's examples of like and all those groups in one way, shape, or form are part of the mixture. You know what I'm saying? Like I often think about guys like Beck, and just other artists that were like in the Beastie Boys, of course, but other artists that were like in that alternative lane that you could tell were hip hop heads, and either probably wanted to rap at some point or just they loved hip hop, so they would mix it into what they were doing. So like Sublime would be another group, like Portishead, obviously, you know what I'm saying? So, I think about, I think there's ways for me to keep it hip hop, even with songs like Fade Away, like it's a clearly inspired by Everlast and the Whitey Ford Sings the Blues album. You know what I'm saying? Like there's ways to kind of like toe the line between, well, what's hip hop and what's rock? You know what I mean? It's like, at the end of the day, it's about good music. And like Nef was saying earlier, like I'm not a one-dimensional guy. I listen to everything. I listen to the poppiest of the pop music. I listen to the most underground of the underground hip hop shit, listen to mainstream hip hop, listen to classic rock, grunge, metal, R&B, like disco, funk, soul, doesn't matter. Like there's good music and there's bad music. And it's like, I don't limit myself to anything. So, I try to make my songs a conduit where I can kind of show, all my influences, like, and sometimes it's more obvious than others, but yeah, like I don't want to ever put myself in a box artistically where it's like, I can only do this because I'm a rapper, so I have to make this type of song. And I think honestly, like that's what kind of brought me and Nef together, because he's like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like we have very similar sensibilities from a creative standpoint. It's like, why can't we do something like this? Like what's telling us we can't do that? You know what I mean? So his willingness to go with me where I want to go is like a big part of like why the music sounds like it does. You know what I mean?
No, you could tell, especially with the new project, and you never keep yourself in a box. Bobby J, I did want to ask you this. Did you ever get invited up to Shade 4-5 by DJ K Slay?
I did not. No, I did not get to do K Slay show. I've never met K Slay. Again, K Slay, huge part of my childhood. Like, I used to listen to his show all the time. Just a legend, man, like a legend on multiple levels, not just a hip hop DJ legend, but also a graffiti legend. I mean, the guys in Style Wars, what I'm saying? Like that came out in 1982, like, so when he passed away, I mean, huge loss for hip hop, and also, a huge loss for Shade 45 as well. I mean, it's like he's somebody who you just cannot replace. You know what I mean? Like you look at the DJs up there, and there's been some turnover in the past year. Like some of those guys that left that building, there's nobody that could just walk into their shoes. You know what I mean? And he's one of them.
How about you, Nef? Did you get a chance to meet K Slay even though you were around Statik Selektah and stuff?
I think I met him on Statik's show once, but it wasn't like not in like a intimate situation, and a lot of times like I would meet artists on there, and I was like working the phones, doing stuff like that. So it'd be like real quick. But like what Bobby said, it was a major loss. And we've had a lot of major losses in the last few years with hip hop. And it's sad. And especially like for someone like K Slay, like there's so many up and coming artists through the years that have been able to catch a break by just meeting that guy. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bobby J would definitely get that invite if he was still here. I guarantee it, because he was giving platforms all the.
Yeah, I hope K Slay would fuck with my music.
No, he would. All he has
to do. Like, listen, the thing I respected the most about him is like he wasn't political. He liked what he liked. If he liked you, he fucked with you. If he didn't, he didn't. He was vocal about it. And like that's kind of what it was. Like he was like a real DJ, man. Like he put a lot of people on. He kept his ear to like what was going on in the street, and he always knew like who the next artist was that was coming up and like was going to be big. And like there, especially in New York, there's a lot of rappers that owe that guy their career. You know what I mean? So, yeah, rest in peace. He's a legend, man. Like
always will be.
Get more legendary than K Slay.
No, rest in peace to the Drama King. What's next on the docket for you guys? We got radio days here. What's next? You got some visuals dropping. Talk to me with each of you, even if you have things going on individually. What's next up for you guys?
Definitely working this project as much as we can, man. Like there's too many good songs in this album for the world not to hear the thing in its entirety. You know what I'm saying? So more visuals. You know, we're still doing, you know, the promotional run, trying to get on some more radio shows. You know, definitely we're going to be doing more music together. Like this isn't this is the first of hopefully a series of projects, you know what I mean? Especially now since like we're in a groove now. Like now we speak each other's language. Like I think
it's a layup.
It took a little while, not a little while, but like, you know, you kind of do a couple songs before you really get to know each other's you know, sensibilities and things like that. I think now we're at a point where we know exactly what we want. So, you know, definitely more music on the way. For me, I've been working on some other music, mainly with producer named Little Vic. We are in the process of doing an EP. You know, we probably have enough for an EP, but I know that he's putting out a solo producer album that some of that stuff might go towards that. Some of it might go towards the project that we're doing. We're kind of figuring that out now, still in the early stages. Yeah, and it's just trying to stay creative, man. I think it's a no-brainer. Like it's a no-brainer for me to step back in the studio with Nef and keep creating, because, you know, the response to this one has been probably the most overwhelming one so far, you know.
Nef, anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, definitely piggyback off what he said. There's more to come for sure. With us. And I'm listening to him. I'm like, what am I working on? And then I was like, damn, I got like, I think I have 5 albums I'm working on right now. Yeah, I'm working on 5 albums, and that's like one of them is another producer project with, you know, various artists, and then the other 4 are like me, like kind of what me and Poppy just did, where it's like me and one other artist, and then get some features. It's just like, you know, right now I kind of mentally wanted to, you know, and naturally just wanted to take a step back and really focus on this. I didn't want to, like, you know, not give it my all or anything. So those are there. They're just kind of sat stagnant. And lately I've just been all about energy. So it's like, I don't want to like chase somebody, yo, we gotta get this done, blah, blah, blah. When it's towards the end, we gotta mix it, whatnot. That, yeah, it's cool. But like chasing features and all this kind of stuff is like, I'd rather have it happen naturally. I feel like it's going to sound better that way, and when time comes, it's good. And then I have those 5 I mentioned, but then there's like 2 albums that are actually with really dope artists that I produced for a label, for like an indie label, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. So yeah, definitely a lot more in the chamber right now.
You could tell just from both of you guys. And for Bobby J, who are some names? And I feel as though you're probably on the same energy as Nef here, but what are some names that you would love to just happen eventually that you want to work with, as far as, because you got the Detroit connection with Hush? So can we bring up Isham? I'd love to see you do a record with Isham. That would be fire. Who are some names that have been in your head recently that you're like, man, I'd love to do a track with?
I mean, just you put Detroit in my mind. Like there's so many incredible rappers out there, but like Elzai for sure. Like Elzai is a guy that I would love to with. You know, obviously Royce is out of here. So, you know,
of course, Eminem.
Oh yeah, like that's like, you know,
it's no brainer.
That's like, you know, pipe dream shit. Like
nah, it could happen. It will happen. I'll manifest it for you.
Yeah, we gotta make that happen. You know, Black Thought is my favorite of all time. You know, even I just mentioned Little Vic before. Like I'm excited for people to hear this stuff with me and him going back and forth, because I think pound for pound, he's one of the best rappers I've ever heard, and he elevates me when I'm in the studio with him. Who else? Who else? You know, on a producer side, you know, I'd love to work with Premier. Love to work with Pete Rock, Large Professor, Mark the 45 King. If you're out there, like, I would love to work with 45 King. Who else? Who else? Who else? Bucket list Rick Rubin, you know, would be would be a bucket list. Pharrell would be bucket list for me. And then I'm trying to think, like, who I really like now. Like, there's a lot of just dudes I respect, like, just for their bar work. Like, I'd love to do something with, you know, like Ransom or like RJ Payne or you know, like a Rome Streets or you know, even like a Millie's or like a Marlon Craft or like one of those guys, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm down to work with anybody, man. Like Neff said, I'm not really at a point now where I'm so much chasing the collaborations as much as I'm trying to make genuine, real human connections and relationships and have it come from an organic place. I feel like that's the best way collaborations happen. Like, when you meet somebody and you get to sit with them and you realize that, you know, you got a lot of stuff in common. That's where I think the best music comes from. So, you know, and again, there's just a lot of people that I've been working with, just, you know, over the years that I've gotten real close with, like Little D and The Truth and Frank B and guys like that. You know, we're all kind of from the same inner circle, and, you know, we're all rooting for each other as well. Joey Baggs is another rapper I love working with. Michael Fire, who's on the album. You know, I think those guys are all incredible
Wise
too.
P.
Wise P. Yeah, FT, you know, shout out to him. You know, we've been friends for a long time. So yeah, man, like, you know, it's got to happen in an organic way.
Yeah, I'd love to see you do something eventually with Pusha T, because to me,
Yeah.
I think
I'm forgetting. Listen, man, like,
yeah,
I think
no,
about stuff like this all the time, and then, like, when I'm on the spot and I got to think about, like, who I really want to work with, I always forget names. It's like, don't take that. Take
yeah,
it with a
no,
grain of
no.
salt.
But Pusha T, in my opinion, because we saw that he got the Grammy snub, you know, at least Kendrick got it. It's a great representation for hip hop. But when I look at Pusha T, he is that bars guy when we look at that
So
murderous
fire.
MC, because he murdered Drake. And we saw him, he murdered the biggest pop star in the world right now. We saw what he did. In my opinion, Pusha T is probably up there as far as like that bars to go to guy. When we look at it from the mainstream level, he kind of crossed over into that lane from a bar level.
Hip hop too.
Yeah.
Like again, we're talking about traditional, like, he's an artist that's a mainstream artist.
Perfect example.
I don't think young kids, I don't think it registers because, you know, he drops a song that Kanye produces with a Donny Hathaway sample, and it's the
Yep,
same
exactly.
you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't call that 90s, they don't call that old school,
No.
but it's the same energy that we're coming with, you know what I mean? And like, or a song like Diet Coke that 88 Keys produced, that's a boom bap rap song.
Yeah,
you know?
that's with the Fat Joe sample in it too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's there's ways to do it and there's ways to go about it. I think he's like one of the perfect examples. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Nobody, he's in the here and now, but he's from that era that we grew up in, and he's making hip hop that's reminiscent of that time, mixed with the new shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, he could still sneak in that stuff. So it's like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, there's ways to do it. There's ways to go about it.
There is.
Yep. That was a fact.
Yeah. Guys, let them know where they can follow you on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, all the platforms that you want to plug in. Let them know.
You can find me on Instagram at Bobby J from Rockaway, Twitter at Bobby J Rockaway. Every streaming platform, search Bobby J from Rockaway, you'll find me. YouTube.com/Bobby J. Pretty simple.
Mine is just produced by Nef, fully, you know, produced, the full word, by Nef, Nef, everywhere. Just keep it simple.
You guys got it. Thank you guys for coming on the show here tonight. You always have a platform here. You always have a seat here on the
Appreciate you,
show.
man.
Thank you guys.
bro.
And just keeping that authenticity going for hip hop and just being your authentic selves, because this project, it shows.
Thank you, man. I
Radio
appreciate
days.
you. Thanks for having us on, man.
Of course,
Hell
man.
yeah.
And my fault I wasn't able to make it out to the listening party. I have a lot going on in my personal life right now, so
All good, brother.
that's on me.
No
So
worries.
next time, if you want me there, I'll be there.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate
You already
that.
know, man. So take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your night and stay safe, guys.
All right.
You too, man.
Salute.
Thanks.
Yep. Salute.